There are sentences we say without thinking. At the kitchen table, in traffic, while sorting bills or folding laundry. They sound casual, maybe even honest. But what if one of those familiar phrases was quietly shaping your financial reality not once, but every single time you spoke it? This video isn't about superstition. It's not about guilt either. It's about awareness. Because whether you realize it or not, your words are not just sounds, they're signals. Signals your subconscious hears. Signals your nervous system absorbs. And over time, these quiet signals become habits, habits become beliefs, and beliefs shape your decisions. So no, saying I'm broke once won't ruin your life, but saying it every week, every month, that starts to build something. It starts to send out a frequency that says I expect lack, I live with limitation, I identify with not having enough. And eventually you find yourself turning down opportunities before they arrive. You hesitate to ask for more. You stop dreaming bigger, not because you can't, but because your words have quietly convinced you it's not your place. We're not here to think positive and pretend everything's fine. We're here to pause just long enough to ask, are the words I use each day quietly keeping me stuck? Today I'll walk you through 7 everyday phrases. Ones we've all said. Phrases that seem harmless but might just be inviting scarcity into your home, your mind, and your energy field. And by the end of this video, you'll not only recognize them, you'll know how to shift them. Not with fake positivity, but with language that leaves the door open for more. Let's begin with the phrase most people say right before money starts slipping away. Part 1. I don't have money. It's such a simple sentence. I don't have money. Most of us have said it out loud, casually, jokingly, or with a sigh when the bills come or the credit card statement hits the table. It feels like you're just being honest, being real. But what if I told you that every time you say that phrase, you're not just describing a moment, you're reinforcing a future? See, your mind doesn't treat your words like passing comments. It records them, it remembers them, and it quietly begins to build patterns around them. If you say, I don't have money often enough, your brain starts to shape your choices, your emotions, even your self-worth around that idea. It doesn't matter if you're joking or venting, your subconscious doesn't know the difference. It just hears the words, and it believes you. So what happens next? You start turning down things without realizing it. You stop looking for new solutions. You hesitate when opportunities come. You put off investments in yourself. You stay small not because someone made you, but because the language you've used has quietly made that feel like the only option. And it's subtle. That's what makes it so powerful. I don't have money becomes a shield we use to avoid risk, responsibility, or even desire. It sounds responsible, like you're just being careful, but under the surface it's often tied to fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of wanting too much and being disappointed again. But let's pause here, because this is not about blame. This is about awareness. You're allowed to acknowledge your current reality. You're allowed to say things are tight right now. But there's a world of difference between acknowledging where you are and declaring that you are lack, that you are broke, that there's never enough. Because when you say I don't have, your nervous system responds. Your shoulders drop, your breath shortens, your energy contracts. And in that small moment, you've shifted your vibration into scarcity. And money doesn't like to stay where it's not welcomed. So how do we shift without lying to ourselves? You don't need to fake anything. You just need to choose words that leave the door open. Instead of I don't have money, what if you said, I'm in a season of reorganizing my finances? Or I'm learning how to create more flow. Or simply, I'm open to receiving more support. These small shifts don't deny reality, they reshape how you stand inside it. They create room. And that room is where change begins. Because here's the truth, money is energy. And energy responds to openness, not resistance. It moves toward clarity, not contraction. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I don't have money, pause. Take a breath. And ask yourself not what you lack, but what kind of relationship you want to build with money. A fearful one, a distant one, or a respectful, trusting one. Because your words are not just reflections of your reality. They're blueprints, they're signals. And they might be the very first step toward building a new story, one that finally feels like freedom. Part 2. Money is hard to make. We've all heard it. Many of us grew up with it. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for every dollar. And then eventually we start saying it ourselves. Money is hard to make. It rolls off the tongue like truth. But it's not just a statement, it's a framework. And once that framework settles in, everything you build sits on top of it. When you believe money is hard to make, your entire body begins to brace for the struggle. You tense up. You expect exhaustion. You don't trust ease. You learn to associate money with sacrifice, with burnout, with giving up pieces of yourself in order to survive. And without realizing it, you start to resist the very thing you say you want because your nervous system now connects money with pain. That's why some people can have talent, ambition, even opportunity and still sabotage their success. Deep down, they believe they don't deserve to have it easy. They don't trust money that comes too quickly. They think if it wasn't hard, it must be wrong. So they unconsciously make things harder. They overwork, overgive. They say yes when they mean no. They undercharge, or they walk away from chances that could have changed everything. Not because they're lazy, but because their inner story whispers it's not supposed to be simple. You have to suffer for it. But here's the deeper truth. Money isn't a reward for pain. It's a response to alignment. And yes, effort matters, but so does belief. If your inner world says this has to hurt, then you'll block every path that feels light, creative, intuitive, or joyful. You'll miss the shortcut not because it didn't exist, but because your mind labeled it suspicious. You'll see others thriving and think, they must be lucky, they must have help, or worse, they probably cheated. But what if they just believe something different? This isn't about pretending money is easy. It's about softening the grip that says it must be hard. You don't need to swing to the extreme and say money flows to me like magic if that doesn't feel true yet. But you can start saying, I'm learning how to let money come with more ease. Or I'm open to discovering smarter, lighter ways of earning. These aren't lies. They're invitations, gentle ones your nervous system can hold without panic. And from that small opening, new energy can enter, new ideas, new confidence, a new version of success that doesn't drain you. Because the weight isn't in money itself, it's in the meaning we attach to it. And if that meaning is always tied to suffering, then no amount of income will ever feel freeing. So next time you catch yourself repeating, money is hard to make, pause. Ask yourself, who gave me that belief? Who did I watch struggle? And am I still carrying their story as my own? Maybe you are. And maybe now is the moment you begin to set it down. Part 3, I just need enough to get by. On the surface, it sounds like a humble statement. I don't need much, I just need enough to get by. You say it with a smile, maybe with a little shrug. And it feels grounded, even virtuous, like you're not asking for too much from life. But underneath those words is a quiet surrender. A quiet refusal to expand. And the most dangerous part is it doesn't feel dangerous at all. I just need enough becomes a mantra we repeat to avoid disappointment. To protect ourselves from the risk of wanting more and not getting it. It sounds safe, but it slowly builds a ceiling above you. And every time you whisper it, you reinforce the idea that dreaming bigger is somehow greedy, selfish, or unrealistic. But is it really? What happens when just enough means you always have to say no to what lights you up? What happens when just enough doesn't cover an emergency, or allow you to help someone you love, or let you take a break when you need it most? What happens when just enough becomes barely hanging on? The truth is, life is always moving. And if you're only staying afloat, it takes just one unexpected wave to pull you under. But this isn't about fear, it's about freedom. Because having more than enough doesn't mean you're greedy. It means you can exhale. It means you have space to give, to rest, to grow. It means you're no longer living every day measuring how close you are to the edge. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with appreciating what you have. Gratitude is beautiful, but gratitude is not the same as resignation. Gratitude says, I'm thankful for this. Resignation says, this is all I'll ever have. And only one of those makes space for abundance to enter. So if you've been saying, I just need enough to get by, try this instead. I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm open to receiving more. That single shift doesn't deny your current reality, it simply removes the ceiling. It tells life, I'm willing to grow. And that's all abundance ever needs: permission. Because here's the gentle truth, you were never meant to survive your way through life. You were meant to live, fully, freely. And that starts with giving yourself the right to ask for more, not out of greed, but out of grace. So the next time those words rise up, I just need enough, pause, feel them. And then ask yourself, if more were possible, would I even let it in? Part 4, being rich just means more problems. Sometimes we say it when we see someone wealthy going through a divorce, or being sued, or making headlines for all the wrong reasons. See, money just means more problems. It sounds like a lesson, a truth passed down from experience. Maybe your parents said it. Maybe you watched someone close get hurt by success. So you tucked the phrase into your back pocket just in case. Over time, it stopped being a reaction. It became a belief. But here's what we forget when we repeat that belief. We don't just protect ourselves from risk, we protect ourselves from possibility. Because your subconscious is simple. It doesn't want you to suffer. If it believes that being rich equals stress, betrayal, or danger, it will keep you far from wealth. Not out of laziness, but out of loyalty to the version of safety you've told it to protect. So what happens? You stop taking chances. You delay the call. You downplay your ideas. You live beneath your potential. Not because you can't rise, but because rising feels unsafe. It's a quiet kind of self-sabotage. The kind that looks like responsibility, like humility, like caution. But really, it's fear dressed up in softer clothes. And when you say being rich just means more problems, what you're really saying is, I'm afraid of what success might cost me. But here's what's true. Money doesn't make you someone else. It makes you more of who you already are. If you're generous, you'll be generous with money. If you're grounded, you'll use money to build peace. If you're anxious, money won't fix that, but it also won't create it. The problems don't come from the dollars. They come from what we've never learned how to hold. Yes, success invites new responsibilities. Yes, it can surface envy or pressure or hard choices. But so can struggle, so can poverty. Being broke doesn't guarantee peace. It just limits the range of problems you're allowed to face. And often, those problems are just as real, just as painful, except now you have fewer options to respond. So what if we stopped choosing less just because we fear more? What if we believed that being rich could come with clarity, integrity, and ease? What if instead of saying more money, more problems, we started asking, am I ready to hold more with grace? You don't have to dive headfirst into ambition. You don't have to want millions. But you can stop pushing abundance away with your words. You can allow the idea that money isn't the problem. Avoiding it might be. So the next time you hear someone say, being rich just means more problems, listen carefully. Is it a fact or a fear? And if it's fear, ask yourself, is it still protecting me or is it quietly holding me back? Part 5. I don't dare to dream big. A dying plant by the door is more than a neglected decoration. It's a quiet symbol, a mirror. Not of failure, but of what's been forgotten. And in many homes, it sits right there at the entrance, with yellowing leaves, dry soil, and a kind of silence that doesn't just belong to the plant. It belongs to the people walking past it. You might not even notice it anymore. That's the danger. The pot blends into the corner. You stopped watering it a few weeks ago. Maybe longer. Life got busy. The leaves turned a little brown. It happens. But something else happened too. That small corner of life stopped growing. And you didn't just walk past it, you got used to it. Plants carry presence. They're one of the only things in a home that ask nothing of us and still give back. They soften edges. They clean the air. They mark time without clocks, and when they thrive, they quietly say life is still moving here. But when they wither and stay withered, they speak just as clearly: growth has paused. Something is stuck. At the entrance of your home, that message matters, because that's not just a pot of dirt by the door, it's your home's first impression. Not to guests, to energy, to opportunity, to the version of you that's still trying to expand. And when that version walks through a door where something living has been forgotten, it starts to forget something too. We don't always realize how deeply we respond to what we see, but our nervous system does. A faded stem, dry soil, a broken pot. They land somewhere, quietly reinforcing the idea that this is as good as it gets, or worse, I've stopped tending. And the longer it stays that way, the more normalized it becomes. But here's the thing, this isn't about guilt. It's not about blaming yourself for a plant that didn't make it. It's about awareness and permission. Permission to begin again, to clear that space, to replace the brittle leaves with a fresh sprig of green. Something simple, alive, humble. A message to the universe that says growth is welcome here again. It doesn't have to be big, a small potted herb, a low-maintenance plant you actually like, even a single green stem in water. What matters is not how it looks. What matters is that it's alive and that it's seen. Because when you care for something living at your threshold, your entrance begins to breathe again. And so do you. So if there's a plant at your front door that's been fading for a while, or worse, if you forgot it was even there, this is your moment. Not to fix it, not to feel bad, but to pause, to clear, to say with intention, this space is growing again. Because your front door isn't just where life comes in. It's where you show life that you're still saying yes. Part 6, that's not for someone like me. No one ever teaches us how to dream without fear. We learn it the hard way by reaching for something and falling short, by getting our hopes up and watching them dissolve. So eventually, we adapt. We scale down. We say things like, "I don't dare to dream big," and on the surface it sounds wise, cautious, mature even, but beneath it, there's a grief we've never named. Because this phrase doesn't come from laziness, it comes from wounds, from a memory of wanting too much and being told it was silly, from being laughed at, ignored, or simply left alone with a dream too heavy to carry by yourself. So you set it down, you closed the folder, and you told yourself, smaller is safer, and for a while it is. Small is manageable, small doesn't attract attention. Small keeps you from being disappointed again. But here's the quiet cost when you stop dreaming big, your life stops expanding. You don't notice it at first, you stay busy, you handle your responsibilities, you keep things together. But inside, something soft begins to shrink. Your sense of possibility, your sense of purpose, that quiet fire that once made you feel alive, it dims. And when others around you start dreaming, it stings. You cheer them on, but part of you aches. Because deep down, you know what it's like to want more, to imagine more. And now you're watching from the sidelines, not because you weren't capable, but because you stopped letting yourself believe. But here's the truth, dreaming big isn't about being reckless. It's about giving your soul room to stretch. It's about saying, there might be something in me that hasn't fully bloomed yet. You don't have to announce it to the world. You don't even have to act on it right away. But you do have to stop silencing it. Try this: instead of saying, "I don't dare to dream big," ask yourself, what would I dream if I knew I wouldn't fail? Let the answer rise without judgment, without pressure. Just listen. That one question might reveal something precious, something you haven't thought about in years, something that still lives quietly in you, waiting for permission to come alive. Because here's what no one tells us: your dreams don't die. They wait. They wait in the books you never wrote, the places you never visited, the gifts you never used. And the longer you avoid them, the heavier they feel, not because they're impossible, but because they've been locked away. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I don't dare to dream big," pause. Close your eyes, and imagine the version of you who didn't learn fear first. The version who still believed in wonder, in expansion, in what could be. That version still exists. You haven't lost her. You've just been protecting her. Maybe now she's ready to come back. Part 7, money comes and goes. It often starts with a sigh. You look at the bills, at your checking account, at the rising cost of everything from groceries to healthcare, and you say it, sometimes out loud, sometimes under your breath: money comes and goes. And it feels true. It feels like life, because for years, maybe decades, you've watched it happen. Paychecks come in, needs come faster, emergencies show up uninvited, and whatever you've saved seems to quietly vanish, like it never really belonged to you in the first place. So this phrase starts to feel like a kind of wisdom, like something only people who've lived long enough really understand. You're not being dramatic, you're being realistic. But here's the quiet danger: when you say money comes and goes enough times, your subconscious doesn't hear acceptance. It hears instruction. The mind is always listening, not to your hopes, but to your habits. And when you speak of money as if it's temporary, slippery, unreliable, you build a kind of invisible agreement around that. You start expecting loss, bracing for it, planning for it. Even when things are going well, a part of you is waiting for the other shoe to drop. And slowly your relationship with money becomes one of fear, not trust. Of reaction, not creation. This belief doesn't just shape how you feel. It shapes how you live. You stop saving, not because you don't want to, but because you believe it won't last. You don't invest because you're afraid the gain won't stay long enough to matter. You don't even allow yourself to fully enjoy money because you've convinced yourself it's already halfway out the door. And worst of all, you start to think that this is just how it is. That no matter how hard you try, money was never meant to stay with you. It was meant to pass through, like a visitor who never unpacks. And that belief becomes exhausting, because living in constant expectation of loss is like living in a house where the back door never quite closes. The breeze is always there, the papers always fly off the table, and even when you try to rest, part of you stays on edge. But what if that belief wasn't a truth but a wound? What if someone in your life, your parents, your partner, your past, taught you that stability wasn't for people like you? What if that lesson became a script, and that script became your life story, even though it was never really yours? Because here's what's real money does: respond to structure. It stays where it feels respected. It multiplies where it feels held. Not in fear, not in scarcity, but in steady, clear intention. This isn't about hoarding or clinging. It's about changing the story from money comes and goes to money comes and stays with purpose. It's about telling yourself, I am someone money can stay with. Not just visit, not just pass through, but rest with, grow with, serve through. And yes, there will still be expenses. Life won't stop being unpredictable. But the moment you stop repeating that phrase, the moment you stop expecting money to leave, is the moment you begin creating a space where it can remain. Not forever, but long enough to feel safe, long enough to build something, long enough to breathe. Try this: instead of saying money comes and goes, say, I'm learning to hold money with care. Or I allow money to stay and support my life. Or even I am a steady home for wealth. These aren't magic spells, they're energetic shifts. And sometimes the shift doesn't happen in your wallet first. It happens in your nervous system. In the way your shoulders relax when you think about finances. In the way you stop panicking at the mailbox. In the way you slowly, gently start believing you are no longer in a cycle of chaos, but in a flow of choice. So the next time you catch yourself sighing, money comes and goes, pause. Ask yourself, is that really true? Or is it just familiar? And if it's just familiar, maybe it's time to send a new message. One that welcomes money in. One that finally invites it to stay. Final: if you've stayed with me until this point, it means you've felt it too. That quiet discomfort. That subtle ache. That knowing deep inside that maybe, just maybe, your relationship with money hasn't been built on numbers alone, but on words. On phrases whispered during hard moments. On beliefs passed down, absorbed, repeated until they became part of your identity. But today you didn't just listen, you paused. You opened a little space inside your awareness. And in that space, something powerful begins to shift. Because here's what we've uncovered together: the phrases we say about money are never just about money. They're about safety, about worth, about how much life we believe we're allowed to live. And when we say things like I don't have, money is hard, or just enough is fine, what we're really doing is drawing the borders of our life with invisible ink. Borders that keep us small, careful, exhausted. But now you know better. Not in a loud, aggressive way. Not in some overnight mindset makeover. But in the quiet, dignified way a woman knows herself after walking through fire and still standing. You've looked at your language, your stories, your patterns. And that is no small thing. That is sacred work. So let me say this plainly: you are not too late. You are not too far gone. You have not missed your moment. The version of you that dared to hope, she's still here. The one who believed life could feel lighter, she never left. She's just been waiting for a signal. And that signal can be something as simple, as powerful as a new sentence. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when the world is quiet again, choose one new phrase. Just one. Not to fix your whole life, but to gently redirect it. Like a compass turning 1 degree. You might say, I am open to receive. Money stays with me and supports my peace. My value is not measured by struggle. Say it softly. Say it often. Let it live on your lips until it sinks into your bones. And before we part, I just want to thank you. Truly. Thank you for allowing me into your space, into your thoughts, into your healing. It's a privilege to walk with you, even if just for a few minutes, through a doorway this personal. May your words from here on out be lighter, clearer, kinder. And may they lead you to a life that feels like home.